In the great words of Martin Luther King Jr., faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. No matter how big the obstacles or how hard something is, you have to have faith. Harriet Tubman had faith within herself. That's why she was able to become the great woman she was. Harriet Tubman was an American-born woman who escaped from slavery in the South to become a higher leader and protester before the American Civil War. She was born in Maryland in 1820 and successfully escaped in 1849. Yet she returned many times to rescue both her family and non-relatives from the plantation system. She led hundreds to freedom in the North as the most famous conductor on the Underground Railroad, an elaborate secret network of safe houses organized for that purpose. Harriet Tubman was born to enslaved parents in Dorchester County, Maryland, and originally named Araminta Harriet Ross. Araminta, or Minty, was one of 9 children born to Rit and Ben between 1808 and 1832. While the year of Araminta's birth is unknown, it probably occurred between 1820 and 1825. Physical violence was a part of daily life for Tubman and her family. The violence she suffered early in life caused permanent physical injuries. Harriet later recounted a particular day when she was lashed 5 times before breakfast. She carried the scars for the rest of her life. The most severe injury occurred when Tubman was an adolescent. Sent to a dry goods store for the supplies, she encountered a slave who had left the fields without permission. The man's overseer demanded that Tubman help restrain the runaway. When Harriet refused, the overseer threw a 2-pound weight that struck her in the head. Tubman endured seizures, severe headaches, narcolepsy episodes for the rest of her life. She also experienced intense dream states, which she classified as religious experience. Harriet once said, "I had reason out in my mind. There was one of 2 things I had a right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other, for no man should take me alive." By the time Harriet reached adulthood, around half of the African American people on the eastern shore of Maryland was free. It was unusual for a family to include both free and enslaved people. As Tubman did immediate family in 1844, Harriet married a free black man named John Tubman. Little is known about John Tubman or his marriage to Harriet. Any children they might have had would have been considered enslaved, since the mother's status dictates that of any offspring. Harriet Tubman escaped from slavery in 1849. Fleeing to Philadelphia, Tubman decided to escape following a bout illness and the death of her owner in 1840. In fear that her family would be further severed, in fear for owning her slavery as a sickly slave of low economic value, she initially left Maryland with 2 of her brothers, Ben and Henry. On September 17, 1849, a notice published in Cambridge Democrat offered a $300 reward for the return of Araminta, Harry, and Ben. Once they had left, Tubman's brother had second thoughts and returned to the plantation. Harriet had no other plans to remain in bondage. Seeing her brother safely home, she soon set off alone for Pennsylvania. Tubman made use of the network known as the Underground Railroad to travel nearly 90 miles to Philadelphia. She crossed into the free state of Pennsylvania with a feeling of relief and awe, and recalled later, "When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven." Rather than remaining in the safety of the North, Tubman made it her mission to rescue her family and others living in slavery. In December 1850, Tubman received a warning that her niece, Keziah, was going to be sold, along with her 2 young children. Keziah's husband, a free black man named John Bowley, made the winning bid for his wife at an auction in Baltimore. Harriet then helped the entire family make the journey to Philadelphia. This was the first of many trips by Tubman, who earned the name Moses for her leadership. Over time, she was able to guide her parents, several siblings, and about 60 others to freedom. One family member who declined to make the journey was Harriet's husband, John, who preferred to stay in Maryland with his new wife. The dynamics of escaping slavery changed in 1850. With the passage of the Fugitive Slave Law, this slave state that escaped slaves could be captured in the North and returned to slavery, leading to the abduction of former slaves and free blacks living in the free states. Law enforcement officials in the North were compelled to aid in the capture of slaves, regardless of their personal principles. In response to the law, Tubman rerouted the Underground Railroad to Canada, which prohibits slavery categorically. Harriet Tubman remained active during the Civil War. Working for the Union Army as a cook nurse, Tubman quickly became an armed scout and spy, the first woman to lead an armed expedition in the war. She guided the Combahee River Raid, which liberated more than 700 slaves in South Carolina. Later on, in 1869, she married a Civil War veteran named Nelson Davis. In 1874, Harry and Nelson adopted a baby girl named Gertia. As Tubman aged, the head injuries sustained early in life became more painful and disruptive. She underwent brain surgery at Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital to alleviate the pains and buzzing she experienced regularly. Tubman was eventually admitted into the rest home named in her honor. Surrounded by friends and family members, Harriet Tubman died of pneumonia in 1913. When she died, Tubman was buried with the military honor of Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn. The city commemorated her life with a plaque on the courthouse. Tubman was celebrated in many other ways throughout the nation in the 20th century. Dozens of schools were named in her honor, and both the Harriet Tubman Home in Auburn and the Harriet Tubman Museum in Cambridge serve as monuments in her life.